Yo, yo. What's up, everybody? It's Grayson Brock, your favorite genius, the man who reads every single book in one sitting. Today, I'm reading a famous book written about 2,300 years ago, supposedly. One thing for sure we know about this book: the words exist until today. And in the form of a digital PDF, I'm going to be reading Plato's Allegory of the Cave. If you've heard of it, you know how famous this story is. You know how groundbreaking it has been to society as we know it. If you've never heard of it, just know that this book quite literally has made empires fall. Let's get into it. No. Yes. All right, ladies and gentlemen. So I downloaded this PDF. Books are free. Allegory of the Cave, Plato. Take the time to do some research on this. If you don't know about the history of this book, you've definitely been mentioned. It's definitely entered your subconscious mind before if you are an educated person. You just probably didn't hear it. So, before we begin, setting. Oh, wait, I always like to go to the beginning of a book. Okay, the beginning. I'm at the beginning. Allegory of the Cave. For those watching the live stream, how's the audio doing? Table of contents, there's none. Okay. Socrates is the narrator in Glaucian. The scene is laid in the house of Cephalus at the Piraeus, and the whole dialogue is narrated by Socrates the day after it actually took place to Timaeus, Hermocrates, Certus, and nameless person who are introduced in the Timaeus. I read this earlier. It really is hard to understand, but basically there's a conversation that happened, and here's the dialogue. But it was documented like the next day or something. And now I said it. Let me show in a figure how far our human nature is enlightened or unenlightened. Behold, human beings living in an underground den, which has a mouth open towards the light. You guys can't see my screen. Fuck. Well, we're gonna have to start the video right now. Chat, we live? Can y'all hear me? I'm gonna restart so you guys can hear the beginning of the book, and we'll get into it. Make it quick. Yo, 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 chat, spam W if you're here. Spam W if you are here right now. Let's go. Thank you, Mob. Who's here? Mob's here. Language Planets is here. Mob, chill, Mob, chill. Mob, don't rush it, Mob. Don't rush the process, my ninja. Actually, no, you're not rushing it, but just give me a sec. I'm gonna do 20 push-ups. I'm gonna get the blood flowing. I'm gonna restart not the stream, the video. So don't worry, I'm not doing that again. Thank you, Mob. Chill out, bro. Mob, you're already pissing me off. Don't get me angry, Mob. Mob, where are you from, bro? Appreciate the support for the stream. Do the push-ups. There you go. Hey, chat. I'm gonna need y'all to drop some donos or drop some push-ups. You got two choices. Let's go. Don't be fat. Don't be poor. Let's go. S S S S S S S 10. I think S S S S S S S S S S S S S 25 push-ups to start the stream, baby. Everybody, welcome back to the stream. It's your boy, Grayson Brock. Back with another, guess what? Reading an entire book in one sitting. I'm the guy who reads every single book in one sitting. I might be the most knowledgeablest person on the planet. Am I saying that to trigger you? Yes. I'm retarded. That's why I'm trying to read books. I'm trying to bookmax. Bookmax. Yeah. And today I'm reading a book that was written over not 200, but 2,000 plus years ago, before Jesus Christ himself. This book, I just did 25 push-ups, sorry. This book, I'm going to be reading in one sitting today. It's called Allegory of the Cave. If you've heard of it, you know that this has literally made empires fall. This book is some of the foundations of philosophy itself. And one thing I know the book teaches before reading to get us interested in it is it basically says everything you assume about your life is an assumption. You think you have to do X, Y, and Z, but all of these things are smoke screens. This book is about free will. It's about freeing your mind. It might literally change your life. And it's going to take a whopping 1 day to read. It's actually not that long. So, chat, let me know if you're here. Oh, fuck, I wasn't recording. You can't make this shit up. You can't make this shit up. You can't, this is why I hate this shit. This is why being a content creator is harder than it looks. Because I just fucking recorded this intro 3 times. I just recorded this darn intro 3 times. 3 freaking times. This is why being a content creator sucks. Today, I'm going to be reading the entire Allegory of the Cave in one sitting. And guess what? At the end, I'm going to summarize it in one sentence. I'm going to be trying to get smart in 1 day. I've even read the entire Quran in 1 day. I've even read the entire Bible over the course of 3.5 days. I've even read the Book of Mormon. I'm on a quest to read everything. Everything. And today, we're going to knock one of those off the list. You've probably heard of this book. It literally has made empires fall. I'm live streaming this right now as well. So if you're in the chat, fucking spam a W right now. Excuse my language, and let's get into it. All right, I have a PDF. Allegory of the Cave. This PDF will allow you to follow along with me. Here we go. This is probably going to take me an hour and a half, estimated. Normally when I estimate, it normally takes twice as long. So here we go. By the way, hour and a half for me, freaking chump change. I read the Bible over 3.5 days in a row. I did sleep, but like, yeah. All right. Allegory of the Cave. So the setting, I already read this little box, so I can tell you it's freaking confusing. The scene is laid in the house of Cephalus at the Pyrrhus. And the whole dialogue is narrated by Socrates the day after it actually took place to Timaeus, Hermocrates, Critus, and a nameless person who are introduced in the Timaeus. Okay, come on, bro. I gotta roast these people with these names. Basically, it's a conversation that took place. Here is the dialogue. And now, I said, let me show you in a figure how far nature is enlightened or unenlightened. Behold, human beings living in an underground den, which has a mouth open towards the light and reaching all along the den. Here they have been from their childhood, and have their legs and necks chained so that they cannot move, and can only see before them, being prevented by the chains from turning around their heads. So there's people chained their neck and heads. They have to look forward, and behind them is a fire. And then they see a wall in front of them. Above and behind them is a fire blazing at a distance. In between the fire and the prisoners, there is a raised way, and you will see, if you look, a low wall built along the way, like the screen which marinated players have in front of them, over which they show the puppets. Okay, so it's like a shadow show, and they're forced to look at it. And do you see, I said, men passing along the wall carrying all sorts of vessels and statues and figures of animals made of wood and stone and various materials which appear over the wall. Some of them are talking, others silent. You have shown me a strange image, and they are strange prisoners. Like ourselves, I replied, and they see only their own shadows or the shadows of one another, which the fire throws on the opposite wall of the cave. True, he said. How could they see anything but the shadows if they were never allowed to move their heads? And of the objects which are being carried in like manner, they would only see the shadows. Yes, he said. And if they were able to converse with one another, how's the audio chat? And if they were able to converse with one another, would they not suppose that they were naming what was actually before them? So would they not start naming the shadows in front of them? Very true. And suppose further that the prison had an echo, which came from the other side. Would they not be sure to fancy when one of the passengers by spoke that the voice which they heard came from the passing shadow? No question, he replied. To them, I said, the truth would be literally nothing but the shadows of the images. That is certain. So they said that they would literally think truth and reality is the shadow. When, of course, the shadow isn't actually anything, it's just what's actually going on. Someone's making the shadow. And now look again and see what will naturally follow. If the prisoners are released and disabused of their error, at first, when any of them is liberated and compelled suddenly to stand up and turn his neck around and walk and look towards the light, he will suffer sharp pains. The glare will distress him, and he will be unable to see the realities of which in his former state he had seen the shadows, and then conceive someone saying to him that what he saw before was an illusion. But that now, frick, I zoned out. And now look again and see what will naturally follow if the prisoners are released and disabused of their error. Okay, so if they're released. At first, when any of them is liberated and compelled suddenly to stand up and turn his neck around and walk and look towards the light, he will suffer sharp pains. The glare will distress him, and he will be unable to see the realities of which in his former state he had seen the shadows of then conceive someone saying to him that what he saw before was an illusion, but that now, when he is approaching near and being in his eye turned towards more real existence, he has a clear vision. What will be his reply? So the prisoner is released, he turns around, and he looks towards the truth of the situation. Of course, remember, in the first page, he got chained, or he's been chained since birth. And you may further imagine that his instructor is pointing to the objects as they pass and requiring him to name them. Will he not be perplexed? Will he not fancy that the shadows which he formerly saw are truer than the objects which are now shown to him? Will he not fancy that the shadows which he formerly saw are truer than the objects which are now shown to him? This has got to be a reference. This has to be a reference to something that is not even worth mentioning. Because if you don't know what it's referencing, far truer. And if he is compelled to look straight at the light, will he not have a pain in his eyes which will make him turn away to take refuge in the objects of vision which he can see and which he will conceive to be in reality clearer than the things which are now being shown to him? And if he is compelled to look straight at the light, will he not? Wait, I don't understand this. Chat, help me understand what this is saying right here, please. I'm going to keep reading. True, he said. And suppose once more that he is reluctantly dragged up a steep and rugged ascent and held fast until he is forced into the presence of the sun himself. Is he not likely to be pained and irritated? Like soul and body. Soul is like a shadow and body like the object. Oh, okay. So he will look at reality and think that the old reality was more true. Suppose once more that he is reluctantly dragged up a steep and rugged ascent and held fast until he is forced into the presence of the sun himself. Is he not likely to be pained and irritated? When he approaches the light, his eyes will be dazzled, and he will not be able to see anything at all of what he now called realities. Oh, what are they talking about here, guys? We must ask what they're talking about. They're talking about some experience where they had this experience. When he approaches the light, his eyes will be dazzled, and he will not be able to see anything at all of what he now calls realities. Not at all in a moment, he said. He will require to grow accustomed to the sight of the upper world. And first he will see the shadows best, next the and first he will see the shadows best, next the reflections of men and other objects in the water, and then the objects themselves. Then he will gaze upon the light of the moon and the stars in the spangled heaven, and he will see the sky and the stars by night better than the sun or the light of the day. So we're on page 6 of 31, by the way. You can't see the bottom, but we are on page 6 of 31. He will require to go accustomed to the sight of the upper world. And first he will see the shadows best, next the reflections of man and other objects. Blah, blah, blah. I already read this. He will see the sky and the stars by night better than the sun or the light of the sun by day. Yeah, he will see the night better than by day because his eyes are getting used to the new world. He's a prisoner, been dragged to the upper world, and the sun is now blinding him. He's trying to figure out what's true. This is an allegory for us, and somehow that we're living in a world full of lies. That's what the book is saying. Come on, guys, wake up. Wake up, guys. Last of all, he will be able to see the sun and not mere reflections of him in the water, but he will see him in his own proper place and not in another, and he will contemplate him as he is. Certainly. He will then proceed to argue that this is who gives the season and the years, and is the guardian of all that is in the visible world, and in certain way the cause of all things which he and his fellows have been accustomed to behold. Clearly, he said, he would first see the sun and then reason about him. And when he remembered his old habitation and the wisdom of the den and his fellow prisoners, do you not suppose that he would facilitate himself on the change and pity them? Certainly he would. And if they were in the habit of conferring honors among themselves on those who were quickest to observe the passing shadows, and to remark which of them went before, into which followed after, into which were together, and who were therefore best able to draw conclusions as to the future, do you think that he would care for such honors and glories, or envy the possessions of them? Would he not say with Homer, better to be the poor servant of a poor master, and to endure anything rather than think as they do and live as their manner? Don't you guys get it? Don't you guys get it? The world that the world Jesus talks about this in the Bible. He says, forget the world. This is what Plato talked about. He's like, once you forget the world, won't you then think that the world's awards are stupid? And wouldn't you rather just like not, yeah, wouldn't you see the vanities of the world? He said this 2,000 years ago. It's still going on. We gotta wake up. For real. Wake up. Don't be fat. For real. Yes, he said, I think that he would rather die suffering anything than entertain these false notions and live in this miserable manner. All right, listen up. I know it's about to get blocked, so listen. Imagine once more, I said, such an one coming suddenly out of the sun to be replaced in his old situation. Would he not be certain to have his eyes full of darkness? Okay, so a person from the sun yanked back down to the cave, to be sure, he said. And if there were a contest and he had to compete in measuring the shadows with the prisoners who had never moved out of the den while his sight was still weak and before his eyes had become steady, in the time which would be needed to acquire this new habit of sight might be very considerable. Would he not be ridiculous? Men would say of him that he went up, that he went and down, he came without his eyes, and that it was better to not even think of ascending, And if anyone tried to lose another and lead him up to the light, let them only catch the offender and they would put him to death. Do you guys get it? Muslim production, what's good? I gotta crank open a coffee real quick. Don't you guys get it? I don't think y'all get it. I feel like I get it. Maybe that means I don't get it. This entire allegory, I said, you may now append, dear Galatian. This entire allegory, I said, you may now append, dear Glaucon, to the previous argument. The prison house is the world of sight. The light of the fire is the sun. The prison house is the world of sight. The light of the fire is the sun. And you will not misapprehend me if you interpret the journey upwards to be the ascent of the soul into the intellectual world, according to my poor belief, which at your desire I have expressed, whether rightly or wrongly, God knows. Whoa, this is deep. This is deep, chat. I'm gonna need y'all to lock in. This requires focus. Does not require a college degree, but this requires 20 seconds of brain concentration. Something more valuable than a modern day college degree. Okay. So leading up to this point in the book, there's been prisoners stuck in the cave, the allegory of the cave. And he took them out. They're blinded by the sun. They're confused, and then they start to realize this is the actual truth. Then when they come back down, everyone else is like, you can't even see in the cave anymore. We definitely shouldn't go up like you. And if anyone else tries to get anyone else to go up, we should arrest them and stop them because we don't want them to go off the deep end too. That's where we're at. This entire allegory, I said, you may now append, dear Glosson, to the previous argument. The prison house is the world of sight, so the whole situation is like a representation of the reality that we're seeing. The light of the fire is the sun, and you will not misapprehend me if you interpret the journey upwards to the ascent of the soul into the intellectual world. So he's saying the getting out of the cave is the ascent of the soul into the intellectual world. Woo! Who here has started that journey into the intellectual world? Built fucking different. According to my poor belief, which I or desire I've expressed, whether rightly or wrongly, God knows. But whether true or false, my opinion is that in the world of knowledge, the idea of good appears last of all. So when the good appears finally, in the world of knowledge, the idea of good appears last of all and is seen only with an effort. I think this is like eternal truth. The Quran talks about this. The Bible talks about this. You, it's only seen with an effort. You can't make someone believe something. They have to make an effort. They have to extend their arm out to God. Is what we're told. It's also what like the first few pages of the Quran say. And then he's saying once you find this eternal truth, this good, it's at the end of this intellectual quest. Once you find it, that is what should be your focus, of course. We've been told that too. I agree, he said, as far as I'm able to understand you. They're having a conversation, don't forget that. And this guy says, I agree. Moreover, I said, you must not wonder that those who attain to this beatific vision are unwilling to descend to human affairs, for their souls are ever hastening into the upper world where they desire to dwell, which desire of theirs is very natural, if our allegory may be trusted. Yes, very natural. And is there anything surprising in one who passes from divine contemplations to the evil state of man, misbehaving himself in a ridiculous manner, if while his eyes are blinking and before he has become accustomed to the surrounding darkness, he is compelled to fight in courts of law or in other places about the images of the shadows and images of justice? It is endeavoring to meet the conceptions of those who have never yet seen absolute justice. Anything but surprising, he replied. What's going on with the words on the screen, chat? We can't be having that. No, sir. Anyone who has common sense will remember that the bewilderments of the eyes are of two kinds and arise from two causes, either from coming out of the light or from going into the light, which is true of the mind's eye quite as much as of the bodily eye. And he who remembers this when he sees any one whose vision is perplexed and weak will not be too ready to laugh. He will first ask whether that soul of man has come out of the brighter life and is unable to see because unaccustomed to the dark, or having turned from darkness to the day is dazzled by excess of light. And he will count the one happy in his condition and state of being, and he will pity the other, or if he have a mind to laugh at the soul which comes from below into the light. There will be more reason in this, in the laugh, which greets him who returns from above out of light into the den. So he just said he would laugh harder of somebody who's going into the light than someone exiting the light. That, he said, is a very just distinction. But then, if I am right, certain professors of education must be wrong when they say that they can put a knowledge into the soul which has not there before, which was not there before, like sight into blind eyes. They undoubtedly say this, he replied. Whereas our argument shows that the power and capacity of learning exist in the soul already, and that just as the eye was unable to turn from darkness to light without the whole body, so too the instrument of knowledge can only by the movement of the whole soul be turned from the world of becoming into that of being, and learn by degrees to endure the sight of being and of the brightest and best of being, in other words, of the good. What? Someone chat, help me understand what this just said, please. Very true, he said. And must there not be some art at which will affect conversion in the easiest and quickest manner, not implementing the faculty of sight, for that exists already but has been turned in the wrong direction and is looking away from the truth? Yes, he said, such an art may be presumed. So he said, should there be a certain art that would convey people to switch sides? Interesting. Chat's not going to help me out with this one. Okay, I'll have to reread it. Whereas our argument shows that the power and capacity of learning exist in the soul already, and that just as the eye was unable to turn from darkness to light without the whole body, so too the instrument of knowledge can only by the movement of the whole soul be turned from the world of becoming into that of being, and learn by degrees to endure the sight of being, and of the brightest and best of being, or in other words, of the good. Wait a minute. What? That is deep. Oh my gosh. Latif is here. No freaking way. This is deep. I gotta freaking highlight this because as soon as I highlight this, that means I learned it, right? Boom, learned it. Easy. Whereas our argument, willing to reject what we previously thought was true. Mm. Oh, I didn't even think about what you just said. Willing to reject what we previously thought was true. I gotta read that again. Our argument shows that the power and capacity of learning exist in the soul already. In that just as the eye was unable to turn from darkness to light without the whole body, so too the instrument of knowledge, the brain, can only by the movement of the whole soul be turned from the world of becoming into that of being. See, a lot of you would just read over this, but I'm way more smarter than you because I slow down. This is really mind-bogglingly deep. Our argument shows that the power and capacity of learning exist in the soul already, and that just as the eye was unable to turn from darkness to light without the whole body, so too the brain, the instrument of knowledge, the brain can only by the movement of the whole soul be turned from the world of becoming into that of being. Huh? Ooh. What is the world of becoming into that of being? Appreciate you, Pixel. You need to learn with someone. I need to learn with myself, son. You sit down, boy. You need to learn with someone. You need someone to hold your hand, boy. For real. Coming at me typing with just the U, not even the respect to put YOU. Come on. Um, I I don't know what this means. From the world of becoming into the world of into that of being. I guess yeah, I guess maybe I thought that was saying something, but I guess you're saying that's just saying if you give your whole body into it, you can become this into the light. You won't be becoming into the light anymore, you will be of the light if you turn your whole soul. And learn by degrees to endure the sight of being, and of the greatest and best of being, or in other words, of the good. Sounds like religious. Like religious people have this. My question is like, but who determines what is good? How do you know what's good? I don't know. You know? How do you really know? Like for example, one religion says having children is good. Another religion says having children is good. One religion says having one wife is good. One religion says having one wife is good. One religion says having two wives is bad. One religion says having two wives is good. It's like, how do you know what's good? Maybe just your own conscious? Maybe your own conscious if you're praying? And must there and must there not be some art which will affect conversion in the easiest and quickest manner, not implementing the faculty of sight? For that exists already, but has turned in the wrong direction and is looking away from the truth. Yes, he said, such an art may be presumed. So basically a libtard. And whereas the other so-called virtues of the soul seem to be akin to the bodily qualities, for even when they are not originally innate, they can be implemented later by habit and exercise. The virtue of wisdom, more than anything else, contains a divine element which always remains, and by this conversion is rendered useful and profitable, or on the other hand, hurtful and useless. Yo, what did he just say? He just said wisdom is divine element which always remains. That's freaking lit. Can we get a W in the chat? Divine wisdom which always remains? Very true, he said. Do you ever observe the narrow intelligence flashing from the keen eye of a clever rogue? How eager he is, how clearly his paltry soul sees the way to his end. He is the reverse of blind, but his keen eyesight is forced into the service of evil, and he is mischievous in proportion to his cleverness. Wait, what? Did you ever observe the narrow intelligence flashing from the keen eye of a clever rogue? What is a rogue? A person whose behavior one disapproves of, but who is nonetheless likable or attractive. Oh. Did you ever observe the narrow intelligence flashing from the keen eye of a clever rogue? How eager he is, how clearly his paltry soul sees the way to his end. He is the reverse of blind, but his keen eyesight is forced into the service of evil, and he is mischievous in proportion to his cleverness. Hmm. I actually know someone like this. Very true, he said. But what if there had been a circumcision of such natures in the days of their youth, and they had been severed from their sensual pleasures, such as eating and drinking, which like leaden weights were attached to them at their birth, and which dragged them down and turned the vision of their souls upon the things that they are below? If I say they had been released from these impediments and turned in the opposite direction, the very same faculty in them would have seen the truth as keenly as they see what their eyes turn to now. Chat, what did this say? I might have to take a 2-minute break. I'm reading Allegory of the Cave, 2-minute break. Two-minute break. 2-minute break. 2-minute break. Two-minute break, chat. All right. But what if there had been a circumcision of such natures in the days of their youth, and they had been severed from those sensual pleasures, such as eating and drinking, which, like leaden weights, were attached to them at their birth, and which drag them down and turn their vision of their souls upon the things that are below? Whoa. He basically just said that from our birth, the sensual pleasures, like eating and drinking, are like leaden weights, which attach to them at their birth and drag down babies, turn their vision of their souls upon the things that are below. Wow. Down babies, turn their vision of their souls upon the things that are below. Wow. Who's live listening right now? Put up a GG in the chat. GG. If I say they had been released from these impediments and turned in the opposite direction, the very same faculty in them would have seen the truth as keenly as what their eyes turn to now. Very likely. Yes, I said, and there is another thing which is likely, or rather necessary, interference from what has preceded. That neither the uneducated and uninformed of the truth, nor yet those who would never make an odd of their education. Neither of them will be able ministers of state, not the former because they have no single aim of duty, which is the rule of all their actions, private as well as public, nor the latter because they will not act at all except upon compulsion, fancying that they are already dwelling apart in the islands of the blessed. He basically said he realized once you ascend to your soul, you will never want to be dwelling with the people. I don't know how that makes sense though, but very true, he replied. Then I said, the business of us who are the founders of the state will be to compel the best minds to attain that knowledge which we have already shown to the greatest of all. They must continue to ascend until they arrive at the good. But when they have ascended and seen enough, we must not allow them to do as they do now. What do you mean? That's what I was about to say. I mean that they remain in the upper world, but this must not be allowed. They must be made to descend again among the prisoners in the den and partake of their labors and honors, which they are worth having or not. But is this not unjust? That's exactly what I was about to say. Fuck! I like this book. He said, ought we to give them a worse life when they might have a better? Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Give those boys a free life. If they freed their mind, let them free their life. We got one GG in the chat. What's up, Hannah? What's up, panel? You have again forgotten, my friend, I said, the intention of the legislator who did not aim at making any one class in the state happy above the rest. The happiness was to be in the whole state, and he held the citizens together by persuasion and necessity, making them benefactors of the state and therefore benefactors of one another. To this end he created them, not to please themselves, but to be his instruments in binding up the state. What? ADHD lost that one. Okay, so basically they need to sacrifice their life for the state. Or, yeah, the goal is to make everyone in the state happy, not a certain class. Observe, Glaucon, that there will be no injustice in compelling our philosophers to have a care and providence of others. We shall explain to them that in other states, men of their class are not obli- obliged to share in the toils of politics, and this is reasonable, for they grow up at their own sweet will, and the government would rather not have them. Being self taught, they cannot be expected to show any gratitude for a culture which they have never received. But we have brought you into the world to be rulers of the hive, kings of yourselves and of other citizens, and have educated for you far better and more perfectly than they have been educated. And you are better able to share in the double duty. Wherefore, each of you, when his turn comes, must go down to the general underground abode and get the habit of seeing in the dark. When you have acquired the habit, you will see 10,000 times better than the inhabitants of the den, and you will know what the several images are and what they represent, because you have seen the beautiful and just and good in their truth. I just started thinking about a girl. Ain't gonna lie. And thus our state, which is also yours, will be a reality and not a dream only, and will be administered in a spirit unlike that of other states in which men fight with one another about shadows only and are distracted in the struggle of power, which in their eyes is a great good. Whereas the truth is that the state in which the rulers are most reluctant to govern is always the best and most quietly governed. In the state in which they are the most eager, the worst. Quite true, he replied. And will our pupils, when they hear this, refuse to take their turn at the toils of state when they are allowed to spend the greater part of their time with one another in the heavenly light? Impossible, he answered, for they are just men, and the commons which we impose upon them are just. There can be no doubt that every one of them will take office as a stern necessity, and not after the fashion of our present rulers of state. Yes, my friend, I said, and there lies the point. You must contrive for your future rulers another and a better life than that of a ruler, and then you may have a well ordered state. For only in the state which offers this they will rule who are truly rich, not in silver and gold, but in virtue and wisdom, which are the true blessings of life. Whereas if they go to the administration of public affairs, poor and hungering after their own private advantage, drinking that hence they are to snatch the chief of good order there can never be, for there will be fighting about office, and the civic and domestic boils which arise will be the ruin of these rulers themselves and the entire state. Most true, he replied. And the only life that looks down upon you of any political ambition is that of true philosophy. Do you know of any other? Indeed, I do. he said. And those who govern ought not to be lovers of the task. For if they are, there will be rival losers, lovers, and they will fight. No question. Who then are these whom shall be compelled to be guardians? Surely they will be the men who are the wisest about affairs of state, in whom the state is best administered, and who at the same time have other honors, and another in a better life than of politics. They are the men, and I will choose them, he replied. And now shall we consider in what way such guardians will be produced, and how they are to be brought from darkness into the light, as some are said to have ascended from the world below to the gods. By all means, he replied. The process, I said, is not the turning over of an oyster shell, an illusion, which is an allusion to a game in which two parties fled or pursued according as an oyster shell which was thrown into the air fell into the dark or light side uppermost. Okay. The process, I said, is not the turning over of an oyster shell, but the turning round of a soul, passing from a day which is little better than night to the true day of being. That is, the ascent from below, which we affirm to be true philosophy. Quite so. And should we not inquire what sort of knowledge has the power of affecting such change? So he's basically saying you can go from dark to light. Is it really that simple? Am I not understanding this book? Is he just talking about going from a metaphorical dark to light, a metaphorical bad to good? Let me go back. Mm, mm, okay, cool. I don't know. What's up, chat? Let me know if you guys are listening. Page 11 of 31. Good book. So he's like, are we gonna know, or how are people gonna go from night to good to bad? What kind of knowledge has the power of affecting such change? Certainly, good question. What sort of knowledge is there that would draw the soul from becoming to being? And another consideration has just occurred to me. You will remember that our young men are to be warrior athletes. So he's just like, yo, remember that our young men are supposed to be warrior athletes? He said, yes, that was it. Then this new kind of knowledge must have an additional quality. What quality? Usefulness in war. Yes, if possible. There were two parts in our former scheme of education, were there not? Just so. There was gymnastic, which presided over the growth and decay of the body, and may therefore be regrading as having to do with generation and corruption? True. Then that is not the knowledge which we are seeking to discover. No. Then there were two parts in our former scheme of education, were there not? Which book? This is Allegory of the Cave. Mm, this is Allegory of the Cave. It goes on. The allegory is still going. So men must be warrior athletes. There were two parts in our former scheme of education, were there not? Just so. There was gymnastics, which presided over the growth and decay of the body. It may therefore be regarded as having to do with generation and corruption. True. Then that is not the knowledge which we are seeking to discover. No. But what do you say of music, which also entered to a certain extent into our former scheme? Music, he said, as you remember, was the counterpart of gymnastics and trained the guardians by the influences of habit, by harmony, making them harmonious, by rhythm, rhythmical, but not giving them science, and the words, whether fabulous or possibly true, had kindred elements of rhythm and harmony in them. But in music, there was nothing which tended to that good which you are now seeking. You are most accurate, I said. In your recollection, in music, there certainly was nothing of the kind. But what branch of knowledge is there, my dear Glaucon, which is of the desired nature, since all the useful arts were reckoned mean by us? Undoubtedly. And yet, if music and gymnastics are excluded, and the arts are also excluded, what remains? Well, I said, there may be nothing left of our special subjects, and then we shall have to take something which is not special, but of universal application. What may that be? A something which all arts and sciences and intelligence is used. Sorry for the highlights on the page, guys. I stole this book off the internet. Okay. A something which all arts and sciences and intelligences use in common, which in which everyone first has to learn among the elements of education. What is that? The little the little matter of distinguishing one, two, and three in a word, number, and calculation. Do not all arts and sciences necessarily partake of them? Yes. Then the art of war partakes of them, to be sure. Then Palmades, whenever he appears in tragedy, proves Agamemnon ridiculously unfit to be a general. Did you never remark how he declares that he had invented number and had numbered the ships and set in array the ranks of the army of Troy? Wait a minute. He's saying math is like the base of education here. I know this because I did some prior research. A something which all arts and sciences and intelligence uses in common, in which every first has to learn among the elements of education. What is that? What is something that is the base of all knowledge ever? The little matter of distinguishing one, two, three in a word, number, and calculation. Do not all arts and sciences necessarily partake of this? Yes. Then the art of war partakes of them, to be sure. Then Palmades, whenever he appears in tragedy, proves Agamemnon ridiculously unfit to be a general. Did you never remark how he declares that he had invented number, and he had numbered the ships and set in array the ranks of the army at Troy, which implies that they had never been numbered even before. And Agamemnon must be supposed literally to have been incapable of counting his own feet. How could he if he was ignorant of number? And if that is true, what sort of general must he have been? What kind of general doesn't even know arithmetic and math? Can we deny that a warrior should have a knowledge of arithmetic? Certainly he should, if he is to have the smallest understanding of military tactics, or indeed, I should rather say, if he is to be a man at all. Oh my God. I'm pretty sure this is Allegory of the Cave. Chat. Someone help me confirm that I'm reading Allegory of the Cave right now. It appears to me to be a study of the kind which we are seeking, and which leads naturally to reflection, but never to have been rightly used, for the true use was simply to draw the soul towards being. Will you explain this meaning? He said. I will try, I said, and I wish you would share the inquiry with me, and I say yes or no. And I attempt to distinguish in my own mind what branches of knowledge have this attracting power, in order that we may clear proof of arithmetic as if I suspect one of them. Explain, he said. I mean to say that objects of sense are of two kinds. Some of them do not invite thought because the sense is an adequate judge of them, while in the case of other objects, sense is untrustworthy that further inquiry is imperatively demanded. You are clearly referring, he said, to the manner in which the senses are imposed upon by distance and by painting in light and shade. No, I said, that is not at all my meaning. Then what is your meaning? When speaking of uninviting objects, I mean those which do not pass from one sensation to the opposite. Inviting objects are those which do. In this later case, the sense coming upon the object, whether at a distance or near, gives no more vivid idea of anything in particular than of its opposite. An illustration will make my meaning clearer. Here are three fingers: a little finger, a second finger, and a middle finger. Very good. And you may suppose that they are seen quite close. And here comes the point. What is it? Each of them have equally appears a finger, which is seen in the middle or at the extremity, whether white or black, or thick or thin, it makes no difference. A finger is a finger all the same. In these cases, a man is not compelled to ask of thought the question, what is a finger? For the sight never intimates to the mind that a finger is other than a finger. True. And therefore, I said, as we might expect, there is nothing here which invites or excites intelligence. There is not, he said. But is this equally true of the greatness and smallness of the fingers? Can sight adequately perceive them? And is no difference made by the circumstance that one of the fingers is in the middle and another at the extremity? And in like manner, does the touch of adequately perceives the qualities of thickness or thinness, of softness or hardness? And so of the other senses, do they give perfect intimations of such matters? Is not their mode of operation on this wise the sense which is concerned with the quality of hardness is necessarily concerned also with the quality of softness, and only intimates of the soul that can the same thing be felt both hard and soft? What the frick? Come on, ain't nobody understand this language, bro. Like, obviously this was written not in English, but why did they translate it so poorly? Like, ninja, please. You are quite right, he said. And must not the soul be perplexed at this intimation, which the sense gives of hard, which is also soft? What again is the meaning of light and heavy, if that which is light is also heavy, and that of which is heavy light? Yes, he said. These intimations which the soul receives are very curious and require to be explained. Yes, I said. And in these perplexities, the soul naturally summons to her aid calculation intelligence, that she may see whether the several objects announced to her are one or two. True. And if they turn out to be two, is not each of them one and different? Certainly. And if each is one and both are two, she will conceive the two as in a state of division. For if they were undivided, they could only be conceived as one. True. The eye certainly did see both small and great, but only in a confused manner they were not distinguished. Yes. Whereas the thinking mind, intending to light up the chaos, was compelled to reverse the process and look at small and great as separate and not confused. Very true. Was not this the beginning of the inquiry, what is great and what is small? Exactly so. And thus arose the distinction of the visible and the intelligible. Mostly true. This was what I meant when I spoke of impressions which invited the intellect, or the reverse. Those which are simultaneous with opposite impressions invite thought. Those which are simultaneous do not. I understand, he said, and agree with you. And to which class do unity and number belong? I do not know, he replied. Think a little and you will see. Think a little and you will see that what has preceded will supply the answer. For if simple unity could be adequately perceived by the sight or by any sense, then as we were saying in the case of the finger, there would be nothing to attract towards being. But when there is some contradiction always present, and one is the reverse of one and involves a conception of plurality, then thought begins to be aroused within us, and the soul perplexed and wanting to arrive at a decision asks, what is absolute unity? This is the way in which the study of the one has a power of drawing and converting to the mind to the contemplation of true being. And surely, he said, this occurs notable in the case of one, for we see the same thing to be both one and infinite in multitude. Yes, I said, this being true of one must be equally true of all number, certainly. And all arithmetic and calculation have to do with number, yes. And they appear to lead the mind towards truth, yes, in a very remarkable manner. Salam, everybody. I don't know why you're saying we're not in the book yet because we literally already read through the allegory of the cave, like the part where it actually explains the literal allegory, and now they're discussing the meaning of it. And now you got me freaking lost. Yeah, never mind. Then this knowledge of the kind for which page 15 of 31. I don't think I'm gonna finish today, chat. I think I'm probably gonna give up on this challenge because I really don't give a fuck. Nah, I mean I do, but it's taking me longer than I thought, and I want to see the sunset. And I low key care about my personal well being more than this challenge because I couldn't. If I do, I mean like I'll finish it tomorrow. I don't know. What do you guys think about that? What did you miss? Literally everything? Like, I don't think you understand. I literally just did the best. I just read the whole book, bro. People are telling me I'm reading the wrong book. Oh, it's amateur philosopher. It's Mo. Mo, I didn't read your name, bro. You changed your profile pic for real, though. Had to roast your ass. Had to roast you for roasting me, bro. Come on, bro. Sorry, I wouldn't even say ass to you in your face. Like, that's a bad word for real. It's very disrespectful. My bad, bro. I'm just trying to stream and be entertaining, bro. Hey, you go see the sunset, bro. Don't tell me what to do, bro. Shut up, bro. I'm not asking for your permission, bro. For real, bro. Yeah, back off, for real. Hey, Elmo in the chat, for real. All right. I know we got thousands of people here listening and tuning in and watching. Actually, maybe in the future, this will be reviewed back on tape. And the live chat will also be reviewed back by hundreds of people in the future. If you are currently chatting in the chat, you are literally living inside of the simulation. You have now entered infinity. Infinity. Because if the database doesn't go out, the data will be available by the people. And at a certain point, someone's going to start downloading the internet on hard drives, like the Internet Archive, you know? The Internet Archive is a literal time stop of the internet. All the information that's on the internet currently, stop, frozen, downloaded, boom, internetarchive.com. You're living in it. This video is living in it. We're doing live research live. We're reading Plato's book, Socrates' book. This is knowledge of over 2,300 years. This is written before most of modern day religions. 1 teaspoon of this, quite literally. Sorry, I'm going into a sales pitch that I've been repeating in my head for my job. Anyways, guys, I'll give you guys. I'm giving $1,000 away tomorrow. If you just DM me, I'm giving away $1,000. Just kidding, I'm not. I am hosting a trip. If you want to travel with me and you have a free 1 week at the end of May, and you have capital to spend, if you fit those two things, and one more thing, those are the prerequisites. The last thing is if you want to have um, 1 week of that silence discussion in Bali. DM me on Instagram. Appreciate you guys tuning in. I'll probably be back tomorrow to finish this book. Um, the one sentence summary I have so far, if you're just coming back, I'm on page 15 out of 31. The one sentence summary I have so far of the allegory of the cave, I'm going to finish the second half of this book tomorrow. The current one sentence summary is this: the world we live in is our hypnotized version of reality. Catch you guys tomorrow. Do more push-ups. Don't be fat. I'm gonna do 25 off the rip. Peace.